Hi all, Lawrence McKendall, Scooberlicious Ultimate, and it's a beautiful day here at Laney College. It's going to be the Flamethrowers versus the Vancouver Riptide, and my guest here is Morgan Hibbert. This is a man that, he's well decorated, this guy's fiery, he's passionate, maybe sometimes he can be a pain and a little whiny, but this guy, I know he's laughing. Like, we went over this guy. I can't believe he's hating on me. No, what you know is this guy, he's won a lot. His arc of his career brought him around the world in various forms. He's in the pro league, racking up records. And this is a very interesting cat, and I can tell you that. He's a baller, and he's passionate and loves the game. And I reached out to Morgan. I said, hey, would you be willing to be interviewed? And he was like immediately like, yes, let's do this, and this is cool. So I was down at the Spider game last night, and it was a tough match, and I was curious you must have been satisfied with it. Was it a moral victory?
No.
Really?
I mean, we lost. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you came in, you just came off your first win, and I'm sort of asking some rhetorical questions.
Yeah.
You have to come to each match and play honest against every team, regardless of the record. So you came to win because it looked like you guys were playing hard, and the Spiders may have taken you for granted.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Spiders are a good team. I don't think they're as good as their record is, so we weren't sort of thinking of them in that way. Like, we think they're beatable.
Well, look at this guy being a hater already. That's okay.
Just truth talking.
That's okay. That's all right, man. That's all it works. Absolutely.
I mean, they beat us, so what am I to say, right?
No, they got scoreboard, but it was a great match. And you came back. They opened up a 3-point lead, and you came back and made it very close. And it was a very compelling game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't think it was a moral victory just because we had it, and we made a bunch of really just dumb mental mistakes. Things like not controlling the clock at the end of a quarter. Little things like that where, you got the disc with 30 seconds left in a quarter. You can't turn it over and get scored on. Right? And that's just like a mental thing where, and you saw San Jose did it at the end of the game where they ate off like over a minute on the clock.
Right.
Because they had the lead, and that mental difference, that's the reason why teams like them are winning and teams like us are losing. Because we had great effort, we did all these things, and these little minor things you don't think about that are just mental,
sure,
we're not good at, and that's why we lose by 1 point in the end. So it's tough to feel super positive.
Well, one of those things that I would say is those are learning experiences. But I mean, you're a veteran, so you're saying, and I would look back if I was a veteran going, I'd probably say what you'd say too, but on the positive side, like you guys, there were a lot of times that I thought maybe you would let go of the wheel, going, you know what, we gave us our best shot, they're taking over, and you dug it out, I mean, and so I was impressed with what I saw out there.
That's a good point. I mean, I will say this about our team, that in all the games I've played in this year, the effort has been there from beginning to end all game long. The team hasn't ever quit, and I mean, that's something that is, you're right, that's really impressive by all the individual guys, because that's an individual thing. Sure. Individuals just deciding not to quit, and so that is good.
So you're under the hood, you're building up the waterline, you know your team, just objectively going, wow, it was a good contest, and,
cool.
And it was.
Well, thank you very much.
It was good.
Appreciate it.
So on that, and then you had your first win on a 6 Scoober for William Yu.
Oh yeah.
View or Vu?
Vu.
And I've seen that you've been on sort of a connection with him in the past.
Yeah.
And where he threw a Scoober to you or some throw, and then you threw for a score. So I mean, this was not foreign to you.
No.
It was a sick play. Tell me a little bit about that.
He's amazing in that his natural instincts and the way he sees the game are just on a whole different level than most players. He really has amazing field vision, and things that he sees and thinks about on the field takes most players till they're 28, 29 to see, and I think he's 21.
Wow.
And we see the game very similarly, so we connect really well.
Very cool.
And he knew that he had to attack the disc in that moment because it was a little bit short.
Yep.
He also knew in the back of his mind that the clock was running low and they had to get it off quick. And I mean, he looks up and he's looking for that crossfield scuba ready. So he's expecting someone should be there because that space will be open.
That's interesting. Yeah, someone should be there.
Yeah.
But so how much was that his instinct and how much was that familiarity of each other's game? Because you've played with Furious and Nighthawk.
Yeah. Both. I mean, it's his instinct that the best place to try and score there is in that far side of the field, and instinct. So he looks there, and the familiarity comes from the fact that he knows I'm on the field, and I probably know what he wants to do, and I knew what he wanted to do, and so he's looking for me to go there, and I'm anticipating that, and so the familiarity helps a lot, and just even the fact that we think the game the same way, that we both are like, oh, that's the spot where we're going to score here. He's very smart. I'm really impressed by him.
Well, the funny thing about that spot, it wasn't a hammer, it wasn't a flick, it wasn't a backhand. It was a scuba. It's almost like a Matrix-like because it was a beautiful thing, and it was like you messed up, but you had time to spectate that. I mean, because it was like, that's the thing. Because you didn't have to go up; it just was like perfect to you. And so that was the thing. Like you had time to go, hey, I can brush my teeth and comb my hair, and think
about myself.
Exactly. It was so beautiful, and that was really nice to see. It was very cool.
Oh, thank you very much. You'll be here. Pleased to hear that.
Yes, I wanted to. So please, I know he'll be here. Did he make the trip?
He'll be here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That was good. So, in part of this interview process is we want to look at Morgan's, career, but really the idea was reaching out is sort of beyond the career, is really getting some insight, understanding Morgan's approach to the game as a learning experience that people watch this going, wow, something that's a little bit different than, at some level I would love to be able to go talk a level of granularity as saying, I was at this game, remember this match, remember this, and that's cool to be able to do that. And some players that I interview, I'm able to do that. But on this level, this is someone who's has a lot of wisdom, and there's a lot of time to look back on looking at different milestones in his career and going, this is what I learned, and this is what I would have done differently, or this is the insight, and this is where I'd love to see the game go, and this is where we may not be able to cover it in this situation. We're going to see it's going to be an organic conversation, but that's sort of the high level mark of where it's like to go. Like, this is kind of come away going, this is a really cool experience, and maybe next time around there'll be a part 2 to go, you know what, I think there's something to add to it.
Yeah.
But this is where ideally I like to go with it. Cool?
Beauty. Thank you for the kind words.
So in doing research, you mentioned that you were in high school, you were a soccer player.
Yeah.
And after a lot of nagging to come to a game of Ultimate, you finally came.
Yeah.
Now, you never played basketball. It was just soccer?
No, not really. I never really played basketball too much. Mostly soccer was my passion. My parents are British, so I had to grow up playing a British sport like soccer. No
problem, and soccer's a great game. But the interesting thing I say is that I could see the extension of jumping into Ultimate is if you were coming from a racket, some sort of hand sport.
Yeah.
Football, a receiver, defensive back, or basketball player. But you went from foot to hand, so I'm wondering, when you got out there, what was intriguing? Beyond maybe the superficial, what was like, I got to be a part of this?
Well, one thing that's key is I was a keeper in soccer.
Oh.
So the transition is a little bit easier there.
So you didn't add that. That makes sense.
So I was a keeper, so I was already used to throwing my body around all over the place, which kind of led more naturally, because that's a good point about the transition.
Yeah.
But what was it about Frisbee that drew? I was a backup keeper for my soccer team, and backup keeper is a pretty lonely position.
Yes,
See the field a lot,
right?
And playing Frisbee, I got to play a lot. And when you're younger, you want to play sports. It's fun playing sports, and I got to play this, and I fell in love with it. And then it was just the people, the vibe, and the people were just like really quality people that really kept me hooked in.
Right on. So that makes sense, because trying to connect the dot of how people jump in, they didn't get playing time, they've been on the bench, or they're keepers, so you have the athleticism, or you're able to dive, and that's always unique. That's always eluded me, to see people who somehow they see the sport in, I want to say, like a 3D level. They're able to see the sport beyond just walking and running. They can fly.
Right.
And launching themselves in the air and doing battle with the earth is great. That's foreign to me. So yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you hit the ground running, and so clarify, did you win a high school or a college championship?
So I never won a high school championship.
Okay.
I got close. I got to the finals.
Okay.
And for college, I won the Canadian University Championship.
Cool.
And I went to USAU College Nationals, but I never won there.
So you almost have, I don't know if you know what an EGOT is. An EGOT is a Grammy, an Emmy, a Tony.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like there's only a handful of people who won all the major awards.
Yeah.
And so there's certain people who have had the ability to win different things at different levels. I like sort of Magic Johnson has done that.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm wondering when I was doing research, you did get to college, you did do something. So you have a lot of jewels. You've got a lot of hardware, which is cool. You've tasted the high level.
Yes, I have. I got a box of medals and things.
So when you go to an event, do you wear your stuff around? Oh, pass the butter. I'm glad you asked about that. No, I just passed the butter, Morgan.
I don't wear my hardware around, but...
What do you have on your wall? Do you have anything on your wall?
Currently, no.
Okay.
But I did have all my medals all lined up, one next to each other, including all the silvers. It's sort of a bit of a... I guess as a masochist in that sense. Is that right? Where I like to remind myself of the times I failed. I have a photo on my wall. It's a great photo of me with this layout bid, and everyone thinks I get it, and I don't actually. I didn't get it, and it reminds me every time of just I wasn't fast enough. Or I didn't read it good enough at that point because I didn't get that block.
You wouldn't be an athlete if you didn't have those, and I'm sure it's interesting if you. So I want to ask this towards the end, but it's curious since you jumped into it. So, what does that highlight? Is the highlight that if you before you die, what does it highlight? Is it a highlight reel of something great you did, or is it like something that you like? Oh, I cannot believe that plays in your head, or is it tandem?
I think when I retire,
or is it a medley?
When I retire or when I die, when I'm finished, I will look back at everything fondly. I won't look back with regrets. I'll think about all the highlights and all the things that brought me joy. While I'm still playing, I look at the things where I failed because that motivates me. If I look at something where I had success, then it's sick. I'm going to sit on the couch for another hour and not do anything. If I look at something I failed, then I'm going to get my butt off the couch and go to the gym and go get better because that motivates me to keep getting better.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's interesting. And those are the type of things that's good to hear what fuels you because as you get older, people want to go at you. They want to make a mark on you. You want to go, you know what?
Yeah.
Not yet. You know what? Not yet,
young buck.
Exactly.
Not yet.
You know what? I'm going to extract a pound of flesh from you, and not vice versa. So I see when last night the way you were playing, you were making throws, and you could see you were savoring. Like yes, you were making cuts hungrily, and yes, and you're a workhorse. Yeah. You're playing major points out there.
Well, and that was my motivation last night. Or my goal, I was covering Justin Norden, who's an amazing young talent, who's having a great year.
Yeah,
and that was my role, was to cover him. And I love that all right, you're the young star this year. Now it's your turn to have me cover you and make your life miserable for a couple hours. And I love that challenge of, can I still do it? Here's this young up-and-comer. Can I keep up with him?
Sure.
And he's a great player. I was bagged by the end of the game. He ran me ragged.
Well, there was a couple points. There was one point that it was really long, and I think maybe they called timeout or something. And I could see you were tired, and you were back on the line the next point.
Yeah.
And so, it was just like, you're playing major points. You're playing on a big field, and you're a workhorse, regardless of if it was a long point prior or whatever.
Right.
And you're a vital point of the team. So it was like, no, you're in there.
Yeah.
Which was good. I was impressed with that.
Oh, thank you.
Just this, it was good to see. So, so let's jump into Furious here.
Yeah.
So, 2005, you joined the team. Correct me if I got my date right.
You got that right. 2005 was my rookie year.
2007, you are the captain.
It wasn't quite 2007. My first year as a captain was 2009.
Okay. My bad.
Yeah, the old guard, the Mikes and Luggies and Shanks, they were still around in 2007. It wasn't until they left that I stepped into a leadership role.
My bad. Okay. So when I was reading a story about you being influenced by the play, was it I mean, you saw the aggressive nature, but what was the philosophy beyond simply? Did they want to, you want to keep them down and choke them out?
Yeah.
Or was it we're going to hate on each other and feel our internal hate to go against a team? I mean, what was?
It was that winning all the time, every time was the only thing that mattered. And the D-line would send a secret email out to only the other D-line players in that game, and we'd come in with a certain focus of, hey, we got to make the O-line miserable tonight because that's what's going to happen to them in the tournaments.
Right.
And we'd have these intense practices. We had a tournament. We have a local tournament in Vancouver where we'd split into Furious and George teams, and this was in my first 2 years.
Yeah.
And I made a call, and there's Luggy, this captain, this leader, this legend, and he didn't like my call. And he's just laying into me for 5 minutes solid because we're opponents, and I'm a young kid, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is my captain. But in that moment, he wasn't my captain; he was my opponent. And that fire, that fuel, where the burning desire to compete and to win is inherent in those guys, and that rubs off on me, and I loved it. And I even see it now. I play Sunday morning Ultimate with these dudes.
Nice.
I'm the youngest one when I go play, which is crazy.
Right on.
And it's Sunday morning Ultimate is like the world championships every Sunday for these guys,
cool.
and they still have that fire where all that winning matters. And I think that's a symbol, and it comes out and it can be interpreted in different ways. Sometimes it can be interpreted as angry or mean or lots of different things. I interpreted it just as a burning desire to win. And when we were teammates, when it was on the line, they were super supportive, and we were a brotherhood, and we were teammates, and we have these lifelong bonds, and I look up to those guys so much. But yeah, it was just a burning desire to compete and to win that those guys still haven't lost. It's amazing. I love it.
So thank you. That was a great story. And so I'm thinking. So when I started to take notice of Canadian Ultimate,
Yeah.
and over the course of watching you do battle with Revolver, because mainly I was watching Revolver.
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, wow, I'm watching them play against different countries, and you were. In my corporate life, I knew of a number of Canadians, and they were all chill.
Yeah.
And then I saw the sport, which is sort of like chill, and your brand of Ultimate was like, you know what? We're gonna bust people in the mouth. You're gonna walk away knowing you were in a scuff, and we're gonna. That was my interpretation.
Yeah.
And so
played hard.
So and that was like, wow, this is a trip. And that really sort of it made me watch, because you guys were like. It was, you were playing for your life. There was a lot more line. There was a lot of camaraderie. Revolver played, but they played with a different smoothness, and there was a different chillness, and they were very unflappable. Whereas you were like, again, the whole team was like they were on each other. They were fire, and that was like. There was something about it, like going, wow. So I have to watch more and more of your stuff, and going so. And that was like, were you aware that was, you were sort of the export. You guys were the bad boys on the block for the country. And so you were the face of Canadian Ultimate.
Yeah, we knew we were different. At least I did. Yeah, for sure.
And so when did you start understanding in your playing that you were getting feedback about Furious is a team to be reckoned with, or their different style is sort of like a new brand of Ultimate, or this is the old and the consistent brand of Ultimate? What type of feedback were you getting? How early of that?
I knew that before I joined the team.
Externally?
Yeah, I knew that's the way the team was before, because I'd been around them, I had seen the videos, I had seen some of their practices, so I joined that. So from my very first practices as a rookie, I was thrown in this pit of fire. And I spent my first year as a rookie just getting yelled at. So you get a crash course in it, and then you see how the other teams and everybody, and so right away you understand, like, oh, this is a unique and slightly different brand of Ultimate than everybody else.
So you had to buy in. So you were completely. That makes sense. Your nemesis was the yin to yang with Sakai.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
What was it? Were they a chill version of you, or were they Different intensity.
A little bit different, not too chill. I mean, Sokka's certainly more chill now, much like I think Furious is much more chill now. But some of the guys they had in the back in the day, like Jaeger or Dennis Karlinski or Roger Crafts, those guys had fire. Those guys had energy. Those guys came to play, and I think we were a lot more similar than maybe people realize.
Sure.
And I mean, we made each other better, and we both knew that. We both knew that being so close and playing each other, we were making each other better and better than everybody else because we had this unique, special thing. And we had a really interesting relationship of this, like, real love-hate because, like, man, we hated playing them, but we knew we needed them.
Sure.
And it was pretty special.
Microsoft to Mac, Fraser, Ali, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
you definitely do that. And it's good because it's tough to be the big fish in the pond with nobody to contest you. I mean, you haven't been tested, your medal hasn't been tested, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting that you see teams come and go, and every year you have this conversation with people. Well, I want to play mixed, or I want to play open, but I want to play chill. Or I want to, I don't want to play chill. I want to eat red meat. I want to play the top.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to find not just one player, but a collective, a deep enough team that go, you know what, we want to go through the fire.
Yeah.
You know what, we just want to play with friends, and if we win, we'll win the beer bracket, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's always nice. So coming back to that, you have a group of people who are eating red meat, going through the fire together. How were you able year in and year out, even when you dip, I figure you had a mission statement of trying to be the best. Mm-hmm. What did you have a blood pack? I mean, what did you do to sustain that?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there was sort of almost an expectation because of the history of Furious. So every time new people were joining in, it was like, hey, look, you're joining a champion.
Sure.
You're joining a 3-time UPA champion, a multiple world champion.
Serious legacy.
Yeah, and so it was probably the legacy more than anything that was that motivating. Like, you have an expectation to withhold. Up until 2015, we had never lost a match at the Canadian Ultimate Championships in 20 years. Right, so that expectation is what was placed upon these young people of and maybe it didn't work very well, but that's what it was. I think.
Well, so there's a lot of one-hit wonders. Mm-hmm. They went to regionals, maybe they went to nationals, and then the band splits up. Right. And it's always fascinating when teams, and it happens in the Bay Area too, that great teams dissipate. One captain wants to do it a different way, and they go. But I'm also fascinated. There's a lot of great teams in the Bay Area that are able to keep together and sustain the vision. Right. And that's always a challenge. Completely.
Super challenge. And I think the vision of Furious now is very different than the time I grew up in with Furious, and even when I was a captain of Furious, and because I kept trying to perpetuate the vision that I knew of as winning Ultimate, which doesn't necessarily, your vision has to match the players you have. You can't force a vision on players, and you can't force players into a vision either. You can't go square peg round hole. And so either you change the peg or you change the hole. And so the vision of Furious now is much more conducive to the players that are around, and it's different. It's definitely different, but it works for this current group, and that's probably the most important thing is, does it work for the group of players that are there? And that's a tough transition sometimes.
So what I find is interesting is that I like to play with guys that have fire, some level, even if they're chilled. There's a level of fire that's in there. But it seems right now teams are balancing. I'm talking generalities, just an opinion, is that players are trying to find a controlled chill. We're chill, and then they're able to, we're going to turn up the intensity at the appropriate time. Right. Some people are able to do that. I don't know how you can be chill and violent, or have that fire. I mean violent, but I mean have that fire.
Yeah, the aggression.
The aggression, exactly. Yeah. And there's a fine line between being really aggressive and just going out in the field going, you know what? We're here to lay down the law and play hard all the way too. And so it's interesting to see teams try to find that balance. Is Furious trying to do that? I mean, how would you do? What is that balance, or what's that square peg, square hole?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think the balance is you want to try and find that aggression, that fire, while still respecting people. You know, respecting your opponents, respecting your teammates. Some people are motivated by being yelled at. Some people aren't. Right. And you have to be aware of that. Right. And if someone isn't motivated by yelling at them, then don't yell at them, because that makes it worse.
Sure.
But if someone is, then you can do it. And so respecting your people around you and what does and doesn't work for them, what they are okay and not okay with, and then trying to find a way of how you express yourself that matches with them, so that in the end of the day everybody is having a good time as much as possible. You know, you want to walk away being like, in whatever way those last 3 hours were, sure, I enjoyed those 3 hours. And maybe I enjoyed those 3 hours by bleeding and sweating and just like getting energy out, and I feel relaxed and calm afterwards. Or maybe I enjoyed it a different way. I think that's really key, and it's tough, but
okay, important. So with that, how long did it take you to come? Was this a lot of therapy, or you gone through a number of teams and a coach that you ran into, like change your perspective? Because that's a very wise response. How long did it take you in your career to come to that very level-headed, Zen-like philosophy?
That's a really good point. Probably. So when I was an early captain, like 2009, I mean, it was the first time I was a captain of the Furious, but I was a captain of UBC for a number of years, and I was a captain of my junior team. So I've been a leader for my whole career.
Okay.
And it's just the experiences you get, and so the first thing you do is you try to do what worked before, right? And then when that starts to not work, you're like, wow, I can't keep slamming my head against the wall. Like, I got to try something different. So you try something different, and you just talk to people, and it's a really good question. I don't know the exact time, but it's just something, definitely experiences with more teams, more players over time, that you start to figure out how do people work, how do you connect with people, and realizing everybody connects in a different way.
No, very much so.
And I definitely feel like I know that now. At what point did I figure that out? I'm not really sure. I've never actually been asked that. I've never thought about that in such a specific way. So maybe in part 2, I'll
maybe. No, but something. Well,
stuff, or maybe never.
You've been around the world. You've played with different teammates and different captains. So, you think about that. But that was a very wise, very, very wise response.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So with Furious, you're back on. You left for GOAT. Yeah. We were talking off camera about GOAT and then doing your research. So you had success. With
GOAT over Furious.
With Furious. Yeah. You jumped to GOAT for what reasons?
So
Hibbert leaves Furious, captain of Furious, to GOAT. And then like, wait a second, he went back to Furious? So explain that whole thing. That's kind of interesting.
So the very short answer, for fun. Now, there's a lot more to that.
Sure.
But for fun. So I was starting to not have fun with Furious. I was starting to become increasingly frustrated with... I play this game, for me, winning is fun. That's what's fun for me. Yeah. And I commit a lot of my life, I make a lot of sacrifices in order to prepare myself and put myself in the best situation to win. Now, it's a team sport, so no one person can win on their own. You need a team of people to buy in. Right. I had that before, and I was starting to feel like come sort of 2013, 14, I wasn't getting that from enough of my teammates. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like they were putting the sacrifice in that I thought was required to be a champion at this level. And it showed in our results, and I was getting frustrated with being unable to connect with these players and to motivate them in a way to put that sacrifice in, mm-hmm. and I wanted to win. And I was starting to not have fun. And I didn't want to be that teammate who was just not... who was angry all the time in a bad way, sure. and who was a miserable person to be around. I wanted to have fun. Right. And so with GOAT, I saw that I played with all those players at various Team Canada teams, and they had asked me for a bunch of years to come play with them, and I kept saying, no, like I'm building something with Furious. And it got to a point where I thought, you know what? If I don't do this, I might not like the person that I'm going to be around these furious people, and I'll be a negative influence. I think these players on GOAT are putting in the commitment, the sacrifice to be a champion, and I think the piece that they're missing is the exact role I fill.
Right on, sure.
And so, it was for fun.
But that was a nice lateral move. It wasn't like you were going down. You were going to a really strong team.
I was going to a very strong team that was missing exactly what I did.
And that's the thing.
And I slid in real well, and I had fun. I had a really good... It was hard. Obviously, it was hard, and I burned a lot of bridges when I did it. But my mental state was certainly more positive from having done that. And I had a really lovely time. There were amazing people. I got to know these people on a new level. We made the semis and lost on University. We had this great run, and I was having fun. And when it comes down to it, I'm not really getting paid money for this. I'm paying money, and what do you want in life? Positive life experiences that you look back on and you're happy about. And in the end, I had a really positive life experience, and so it was good. I'm glad I did it. It was tough, but in the end, it was fun. And Frisbee should be fun. Everybody should have fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did those bridges mend? You came back to Furious.
They did. I think so. At least.
It was you knucklehead, get back in the fold.
Yeah, I mean, they understood. I think once players saw what I was doing with GOAT, a bunch of them came up to me and be like, "I didn't understand it before. After seeing you make that run to semis, I understand now, and I get it." So they understood. I think a lot of people will still be hurt, and understandably, and I can't fault them. And I empathize and agree with why they were hurt. I think for the most part, I mean, they're all really good people on Furious. They're really good guys, and they welcome me back, and I think the commitment of the work ethic is better now, and when it comes down to it, they're a bunch of really good dudes, and they're really amazing and supportive, and it was a tough transition initially, but I think it's sort of worked out, and they've welcomed me back, and they're an amazing group of loving people. So.
Well, at the end of that article, I said, don't be surprised that Hibbert's back with Furious, and I'm doing my research going, GOAT won and this is great. And you're like, no, I was back with Furious the next day. I'm like, the story would have been great. Like LeBron goes to Miami, wins the championship, and back to Cleveland to win it again. So no, it wasn't that. It was like, okay. But it was a nice bookmark.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Right on. So let's shift gears. You're on the world stage.
Yep.
Japan. What was interesting was when I was watching, because half the team was Furious on that, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it was probably half Furious, half GOAT that year.
And that was an interesting game. And my initial take was, I watched it a number of times because it was like rubbernecking a traffic accident. Like you could not look away.
Right.
And I kept trying to go, there's more to this. And there was so many levels. I would love to put it this way. This is the one having over beer.
Yeah.
To actually teach an executive MBA program on so many facets of that game.
Right.
There's so much stuff. My one take was that I thought it was a boxing match versus a fighter, and that you could have easily won the game if you had said, played your size and went deep, and it would have been easy. But you wanted to prove to Japan you can box.
Okay.
So you played small ball, they stayed with you, and you got frustrated.
Right.
And that's what I thought. At the end of the day, you were going to show, like, you know what, Canada can play at any level with anybody. We can go small, we can go big. And I thought, if you just went long ball, it would have been like 9-13, 9-15, whatever, and it would have been done. But you boxed, and I thought maybe I thought that was sort of the super takeaway from that.
Interesting.
I might be wrong, but I was like looking at going, wow, I thought that you just wanted to show that we can play with anybody. We can play anybody's style.
Yeah.
So that said, at what point did it go, you know what, it's on? That, you know what, I don't care what this is. I went to a Rodney Dangerfield quote. I went to a boxing match and it turned into a hockey game.
Yeah.
What point did you say, you know what? I don't care what's going on. It's going to be a hockey game.
Right.
My boys have been wronged, and I'm gonna go down swinging.
I think so. The frustrations were building throughout the match, and there was one particular point where a call was made, and Japan basically refused to communicate. And communication in a self-officiated sport is so vital.
I thought when you said that, and
So vital.
it was very interesting how you
Yeah.
broke it down. Like, that was compelling when you said
Yeah,
it. So please
and-
elaborate.
Because you just we have to talk it out.
Yep.
You know, and we have a self-initiated sport at that level. You have to be able to talk it out, and we're so used to being able to talk it out. We're so used to being able to have a conversation. You give your opinion, I give my opinion. We have a discussion.
Right.
And I think this happens all the time in life. When you feel like you aren't being heard, or when you feel like someone doesn't even want to have a conversation
Right.
with you, you get frustrated.
Very frustrated.
Everybody just wants to be heard.
Sure.
Right?
Agreed.
And I understand the challenge there, of course, is the language barrier. So it's not that, it's not that they just flat out are refusing to communicate. Some of them can't. They do have translators, but it's very tough. So there's, I have friends on that team who speak English, but they're junior players, and they feel very uncomfortable coming into the situation with their senior players and interjecting themselves and translating because it's disrespectful.
Right.
And so then we get stuck. And so they refuse to communicate, and we are used to communicating, and we became increasingly frustrated around various calls and the inability to discuss what had actually happened. And I mean, at one point they just sat on the field.
Right.
And they didn't, and so, no doubt about it, we lost our cool and we lost our composure. That's totally on us. But we were frustrated. And I think that's something that on the international stage is something that needs to be rectified, fixed. You need to have a translator. You need to be able to communicate.
Sure.
Or have refs.
Sure.
If you don't have refs, you got to have a facilitate. You got to have a facilitator to have, and a neutral party to translate, I think, would have solved all the problems.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have gotten into the street fight that you sort of talked about. And so that was tough. So that sort of moment when, and I mean, they were coming for blood too. They wanted to beat us. They knew it was a big game, and I mean, kudos to them. They won. When it comes down to it, they won, and they played better than us. There's no doubt about that. But it's funny, like the internet, in all its wisdom, paints it as very one-sided. And if you talk to the Japanese players, which of course no one ever did,
right,
they don't view it that way. I mean, I won the Spirit Award at the end of that game in our Spirit Circle.
Really?
Yeah. So Team Japan gave me the Spirit Award for that game.
So a couple of things I was going to ask. I was interviewing Yokawa Oka.
Okay.
And he said exactly like, you know what, this is high level, and that's just stuff happened. It rolled off people's backs, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So he was like, yeah. And so to your point, in one of the articles, it was like, these things happen. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know, and that's great.
I shared a beer with them that night. They didn't care. They won for the most part.
Sure, of course.
They didn't care.
Right.
But they knew it got out of hand. They knew it was bad. But they also knew, hey, it's sports. Sometimes it happens. We shared a beer afterwards. I get famously railed on because after the game when we lost, I didn't slap hands with one of the players as I was walking on the field. So that's Takuya Saito, who the next year came and played with Nighthawks.
Okay. Oh, really?
So teammate.
That's funny. I saw that picture, I think, on your Facebook page or Twitter. Okay, yeah.
So even he's a super good friend of mine. I'm just in a whole nother world, right? And he realized after he's like, shit, I'm sorry, man. Like, that was like really rude. You were super upset. And I was like, hey, it's all good, man. Like, we're friends. And so, I think the point I'm trying to get at is at the end of the day, they understood it wasn't good. No one's going to say it was good, but they weren't as offended as the internet was, and we understood, and we had a great dialogue afterwards. Of like, hey, how come both of us avoid this next time? This isn't good. What can we do, both of us? And we had a really good dialogue about how to improve things the next time, which is really awesome. Yes. And so, it's kind of funny.
Fine. Here you go.
This is a real live video.
Yeah, real live video.
Real life is happening.
No problem. No, that's very interesting because I was going to ask you what that Spirit Circle was like, and you just mentioned it.
Yeah, it was great. Happy about how that played out. What can we do?
Yeah.
And it was really good. And they're all great dudes. I have great dialogues with Matsuno, Kuruno, Takuya, who doesn't play anymore, all those guys, and they're all really excellent people.
That was good. So that was very interesting because that was a wild game, and I mean, it was big versus small. It how to play in the wind, how to play intensity. It was back and forth all the way around. It was a very, very fascinating game. And one of the things that was frustrating is to have that level of conversation. And I would love to have like sort of a round table. At the end of the day, if I have every round table, you would go, you know, oh, there's nothing to see here, move along. Like, really? I thought there's drama. And you're like, there's nothing here. So for the layperson looking at the game, they registered a visceral reaction in particular, but they did not know the dialogue, relationships, or anything. But yes,
that's sports, that's life. You know, you see it in pro sports all the time. We don't know what goes on in the background with all these things, right? We just see what's on TV and we make our own opinions and we go with that. And people rarely think to actually ask before having an opinion.
Exactly. And you weigh into those opinions. It's always funny when I talk about when you go to an art museum, and there's a slight tangent, and you have a docent tour, you're hearing the recording of what the artist did, and if you actually look at the pastoral colors and you actually ask the artist, oh, I did purple because I ran out of red. So it's like what you're saying, like, I can't believe you're like, it was like, it was no big deal. It was like whatever. Yeah. And so it's like, you put your layer, but it's nice to actually hear from the players involved going, you know what, this is how it was. You play high level, and sometimes that happens, and we move on.
Yeah, you try your best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yes, exactly. But thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So you've seen the world playing Ultimate.
Yeah.
And tell me any stories, any sort of takeaways from you've moved away from Furious. You see Furious every day.
Yep.
But you're able to go on sort of an all-star team, play the world, or Furious goes out and play the world, but you're also coming to represent Canada and play the world. Yeah. That must be cool. That must be very satisfying. And you also won the award for best male athlete. Was that Ultimate Frisbee, or was that?
That was for Frisbee, So it was for Canadian Frisbee in 2011.
So I mean, you've been the face for Canadian Ultimate. That's kind of a trip.
It's super trippy.
I mean, it's a trip. I mean, that's awesome. The thing. Yeah.
I mean, I love it. Yeah, I do.
So I mean, it's like one of these things that go. Yeah, exactly. It's like, dude, this is kind of a trip. Yeah, no, I that's why I said I know you sort of understand, but at the same time, you're like, dude, I'm not getting paid money, and that's sort of where the crossroads is like, this is some cool shit, and I'm not yet. So totally. He's waiting for the paycheck, but he's nice one day. Yeah, but it must be cool to be one of the faces of Canadian Ultimate.
It's really cool. It is. It's really cool, and it's really special. And I mean, it's an ego boost.
Sure, of course.
Sure. Definitely an ego boost. And it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to represent your country and your sport, and to be the face of it. And I take that very seriously. That my actions and my words and how I conduct myself reflects upon Canadian Ultimate. That's something that's very serious and important to me, and I take with great pride and try to be as best as possible. I try to be and hopefully most people like it, and hopefully most people respect Canadian Ultimate for it. I don't represent everybody, obviously, but I'm me. I represent me. And
Twitter, looking at your Facebook, you seem like a nice guy. I mean, it's like a very approachable guy, someone who's well aware of the world and beyond Ultimate, and that's really cool to see. It's not very myopic. You see a larger view in what you're doing, and that's just really cool.
Thank you very much.
So going back to the world stage, any interesting stories that you could share about being out playing either playing in Lecco or wherever you may be?
For sure. I had a moment in 2013 with the World Games in Cali, in Colombia, bronze medal match. We're playing against Team Colombia, and we're playing in this big stadium. And Colombia wasn't, as a nation, wasn't super strong in a lot of sports, but they were strong in Frisbee. And the locals, they knew that. So their games were very well attended, and it had a South American soccer style atmosphere. It was unbelievable. It was the most energy I've probably ever been in a stadium.
Define energy.
They are singing and they are loud, and you cannot block the crowd out. They are all the time so passionate. Right. And there's this moment where I called a foul against Colombia, right? And so there's a stoppage and there's a discussion. Columbia doesn't think it's a foul. And the whole crowd just starts booing. And now there's 10,000 people in the stadium booing me. And I stopped. And normally I'm very good at focusing on the game. And all of a sudden I was out of the game. And I just looked around and I thought, how cool is this? I mean, I'm in Columbia playing against Columbia.
Sure.
They should be booing me. They shouldn't be cheering for me, right? And so 10,000 people care so much about this sport that they're going to go to that. We're a real sport. This is what real athletes feel.
Yeah, he's very much so.
It was so special because I never thought I was going to get that. You know, once I lost my childhood dream of playing for Team Canada hockey and all that. But here I was, getting to feel what these other athletes feel, where there's so much passion in that crowd. And it just hit me of, I'm so fortunate.
Sure.
I'm so very fortunate that I get to experience this that not many people do, and it was really special in a very weird way to be getting booed and think this is so special.
No, but yeah, I can understand that. I can completely understand. I can see how you could revel in it too. And it was nice that you came away with the win.
It was really nice.
Yeah,
we did win in the end.
Exactly.
So that helps.
So yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, they were a nice team. I mean, they were like, well, surprised, like, wow, they were unflappable. They were, but you guys, you know, you were stronger.
And the fans were so lovely in that, you know, even when we won in the end, Columbia lost, they still were very supportive of us.
Yes.
The whole time. The Colombian people are amazing people. So supportive, so friendly, so loving, and so passionate. I love it.
So at what point? So as you're playing. At what point, I want you to look at your ego. Do you want to say, I'm Morgan Hibbert, damn it? Like, you know, you want the offense. So like, and one of the questions I want to ask about last night, just in general, do you let the game come to you, or do you need to impose Morgan Hibbert on the game? Because you're a defensive player. You can impose by shutting somebody out, you're imposing your will. But as an offensive player, what do you do?
Right. That's a super strong challenge.
And I'm talking about Morgan Hibbert. Like, you know what? Like, you see my medals and, like, you know, recognize.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let's just.
I mean, defensively, I try to impose my will all the time. Verbally, with what I want us to do on defense, how I'm going to play, how we need to play certain people, how I want other of my teammates to play certain people.
Right.
I am imposing my mind and my will all the time, very, very strongly. Complete opposite offensively. I know that I am not the strongest offensive player on the field, and I know that I need to play a more auxiliary role where I'm supportive and I play within the system.
Well, I heard the team. I heard an adjective, a fulcrum or a noun. You were the fulcrum of someone. Someone got injured and you had to go from the D line to the O line, and you became the fulcrum. Is that what you're alluding to? Maybe you don't know the art. I'm thinking like
you don't mean me personally, just in general.
No, they were referring to you. Like maybe you were the facilitator.
When was this?
That was the year that you were like one of the like MVP candidates for MLU. And
yes.
And they were calling you
right. So I think that was 2004.
Does that ring hollow? I mean, you were. I guess
that was a different team because that was a really young team, and so yes, that was a super young team. And what I felt like they needed from me was not necessarily my physical skill set, my mental skill set. What they needed was a confident, strong presence of we're just gonna go. And what I am good at is running a lot, very hard. Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. That year I had to insert myself and just be confident out there to hopefully spill that confidence out to the other players of just, hey, go do what you can do.
Interesting.
Don't be afraid of the moment.
So you had to insert yourself. Now, so I cut you off. So,
right. That's okay.
I'll illuminate now. So,
less so with this team. There's a lot more veteran people. My role's a little bit different. I still try to insert my confidence out there in the field and my belief in myself and hopefully my belief in my teammates so that they believe in themselves of just like, at the end of the day, just go do what you do best. Yeah. But in terms of trying to like touch the disc every pass or trying to take over, that doesn't work. That's not how our offensive system is built. I need to play within the system. I need to play as a team player and play within my space a lot more with this group and hopefully it leads to grander success. Not this year, obviously, but in the future, hopefully, because everybody has a role, and it becomes a more interchangeable system where you're not relying on one person.
Right.
If you're relying on one person, the person gets hurt, you're fucked.
Right.
This way, you're not so much, and it's a better team system.
So one of the things that I looked at is your presence and your wingspan.
Yeah.
You probably see that there's throwaways simply just coming in the wake that you put up. There's throwaways. You must sort of chuckle at that, going, I didn't have to do much. Just me being Morgan Hibbert and big. There's a throwaway. There's a and that's kind of.
You know where I get it, to be honest. Sometimes the most is if someone's striking deep, and I'm trailing on them, and they don't throw it because they see me. And I'm like, it was actually beat. Yeah. I think that person had me beat.
Exactly.
If you'd thrown it, I would have scored on. But you didn't because you saw me.
Right.
And I was like, sweet, that makes my life a little easier.
No, and it's funny how you really recognize that. Now, how frustrating is it because of your wingspan when you have somebody who's not fazed by it? Because you're attempting to pose your will on a small. I can see you on a smaller player, and some of them are like, you know what, they can make you dance.
Fun fact, I mean, you keep talking about Wingspan, and it looks like it's sort of...
Well, what's on your Facebook page? Your badass Wingspan.
Right. Okay. But
I did that. Well, that's okay. Interesting. Right. Well, that's why I put you on the stool, so it doesn't look like I'm looking up at you. Okay, good. I didn't know that. I
look big. I'm all legs. My wingspan is not the greatest, but I still am able to use it to influence. I mean, that was part of covering Norden last night. Was he has great field vision. So I'm a bigger person than some of our handlers, defenders. So by me covering him, I can block his field vision and hopefully get in his way and
can pause.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so I try to use that for sure.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So
and that I don't know if that photo you talked about. Are you familiar with the Michael Jordan photo?
Well, is that but the black and white one is strong.
It's nice. It's homage to. He did.
It's a strong image.
It's great. Yeah, the photographer is Jeff Bell, and he's so talented.
Very cool. So how'd that come about? I want to take a picture of you.
Jeff Bell had a project in mind. He wanted to replicate that. He loved that photo, and he teaches photography. He does a lot of photography. He works for Ulti Photos. He's super talented. And this is the project I wanted to try, and he thought I'd be good for it.
Very cool.
We gave it a shot, and it worked out.
It worked. It's really exactly. It's really sweet. Yeah. So we were down to like 20% battery, which we got a little bit of time, exactly.
Lots of time.
So, one of the things that I want to do is...
I had thought about retiring in 2013, just because the amount of work it takes to keep... I'm 35 now. Right. So the amount of work it takes to keep my body going with these young kids.
You're playing a lot of Ultimate. And you're playing Pro. We didn't get into Pro, which is even a big-ass field.
And I usually play a lot in those games. So. Right. But then that moment I had, an experience I had in Cali, in fact, the opening ceremonies, I come out, now the stadium's packed, 30,000 people.
Nice.
And you got that parade around the track that you see in the Olympics all the time. I was like, why would I ever retire? So my mentality now is that I'll stop when they drag me out of this.
No, that's a good point.
/ when I start getting worse. I think it'd be hard for me mentally to become a support or role player after having played the role I've played my whole life. I'm not sure how I'd be able to deal with that. I'll figure it out at the time. But so my mentality right now is that I still think I can improve.
Sure.
I'm 35, but
you can.
I still think I can improve. And as long as I believe I can improve and I'm working towards getting better, that's motivation for me. And I love it. I love feeling like I can get better, that I can improve my throwing. I mean, I've only been, I guess it's a little while now, but I've been left-handed for 7 years now. So that's I can still work on that. I can still get faster. I can still get quicker. I feel like, I've still got I feel like I've got a max level right here, right? And as I get older, this max level starts to drop. That's age.
Right.
But I'm here. And so even though my max level is dropping, I'm still getting up here. And so until I feel like I've reached that, I want to keep going. And it's a full-on thing. It's, it's nutrition. I watch my nutrition. I read about older athletes. What do they do? Like Steve Nash cut out sugar from his diet completely. That sort of thing. LeBron spends so much time on his body. Right. He takes the rest when he needs it. Right. I follow what do those older athletes do? How is Dirk still playing and so good? and it's a full-on thing. It's training. I work with a personal trainer. I'm training all the time. I'm doing all these things to care of my body.
You doing yoga?
I do yoga.
Okay.
Yep. Yoga's great.
So,
I love yoga.
right.
I mean, I think that I'm healthier now than I was at 26 because I know how to take care of I'm smarter. I know how to take care of my body better.
So you leave the game. What sustains all these other things, or you don't need to do them so much because you're not a pro athlete anymore?
Like if I stop playing?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, I might do some of them. I wouldn't train as hard. I train differently.
Sure.
I'd find a new passion.
So right now, you are preserving your body and doing everything so you can be razor's edge and do that.
If I retired today, I don't know what else I would do in my life that brings me as much joy as Frisbee still does. And as long as Frisbee's bringing me joy, I want to keep playing because it's life. It's life experiences. You want to enjoy it, and it brings me so much joy. It takes me to Colombia. It takes me to Japan. It takes me to Italy.
Yes.
I got to meet people like you, right? Like these life experiences are so special, and as long as I can keep doing it, so I don't have a time ending until someone, I guess, says, Morgan, you're not good enough anymore.
Yeah, you know what? And so that's part of the next stage is I appreciate all the stuff you're doing so you can play at the high level and appreciate it because the fruit's delicious. You got it's good stuff.
It's so
absolutely.
special.
So you step away and do you just start playing like a lesser club, like Morgan's coming out and playing with or he's just
I don't think I play Frisbee.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do it.
You would probably just play Ultimate or whatever, just play some chill.
Play golf. I just do something else. Like the hard thing about Frisbee is if you're a little bit good at something, it's hard to go play a lesser version where people just want to have fun and not be crazy competitive. So I go play other sports. Like I'll go play squash, and I can be as aggressive and intense as I want, but I'm really bad, so I lose all the time. But for me, it was fun because I went as hard as I could.
Right.
And the other person still has fun because they kick the crap out of me, and for them, it's just like a Sunday.
Sure.
So I would probably find something that I'm not good at, that I could compete as hard as I could at it to get that out of it and wouldn't ruin it for the other person.
I want to say on some level, I'm sure you would maybe retire and go, what the hell am I doing? I've got to somehow get back on it. You know, Morgan's coming back the next year. And
I'm scared. I mean,
don't play as long as you can.
You know, you think about things like with you talk to, like when people talk to Kobe and stuff, and like when it's their life, and then all of a sudden it's not, and like, what do you do with yourself? And I try not to think about it too much because I don't know what I would do.
You for him, his body told him he couldn't play, and there's going to come a time where it's going to become clear. You love the sport, that it will become clear that you need to step away, that you can make peace. That's the thing, making peace with, so you'll know. Right now,
well, I watch a lot of PTI, and Michael Wilbon's always quotes this: "Father Time is undefeated."
Yeah,
always says that, and I hear him, and I'd be like, "Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Maybe, I could be that one." Sort of jokingly, but it motivates me.
Yeah, absolutely. Father Time is undefeated, but you can prolong this because absolutely. And so enjoy it because it's always tough that if you decide to step off, the older you get, it's steep drop off, and so you stay high as long as you can. Please, that'd be good. You're enjoying the fruits of it, and it's very cool. So so let's go into some questions about if you were to be, say, coaching. Yep. And you were coaching a, sort of pose this to some people. If you were coaching a team of non-athletes, what would be some of the first things you would do? Say high school players, non-athletes, they're starting an Ultimate Frisbee team. What would be one of the first steps in order to get them indoctrinated in the sport of Ultimate?
Like to get them to fall in love with it? I mean, it would be less disc skills, less working, and more enjoying the people you're around. That's how you fall in love with Frisbee. It's the people of Frisbee that makes it special more than anything else. The people, I mean, I've formed friendships with opposing players on other teams that I've only known because I've covered them for years. And we start talking, like, hey, we might as well chat. We spend hours beating the crap out of each other. Let's have a beer.
That's funny.
And you're like, oh, you're like a really interesting person. Like, did you see that video that Grant Lindsley put up about...
you talk about the one that just recently came out? Yeah, it's a lovely video.
Lovely.
I think it's fulcrum.
What an amazing person you are. I want to talk to you. You're so interesting. So that's what I would bestow upon people. Like, get to know these people outside of the sport, and then you'll fall in love with the fact that you get to throw a frisbee around with them, and that's what's going to keep you into it more than anything else on the field.
Okay, so let me ask you this. We're down to there's so much to talk about, and it's all conducive on battery life. So anyway,
I actually have a battery pack if you need it.
Well, here's the deal. We'll talk about that. So if you were starting a team that was full of athletes, would it be the same approach?
Yeah,
you're coaching.
Sure.
So it's about the people.
If you want to fall in love with frisbee, it's about the people. That's what it's always. That's what it is. That's how everyone falls in love with frisbee. It's the people, because it's more special than any other team sport that I've ever experienced, and I think anybody will ever experience. And I think that's why people switch and why they fall in love with it.
And that's the thing. People are going, "Why are you in love with this sport?" I said, it was a number of people I hung out with,
right?
And you can't explain it like to the point where you were laughing at people inviting you to the game. I've got brothers, I've got friends that scoff at this game. I'm like, come out and play it.
Right.
You can't be angry throwing a frisbee.
No, you can't.
And then two, if you actually play with athletes, you'll be very impressed and be very happy, and you'll really appreciate the game. But this is an amazing game, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of interesting things with this sport, which makes this it's beyond simply a piece of plastic.
Yeah, everybody's got a really interesting story outside of the frisbee field that they bring onto the frisbee field. And you're like, oh wow! It's weird because what gravitates those people in the first place to come here? And I mean, I guess it's a lot of the history of frisbee and its hippie, welcoming nature that. I hope stays preserved as this sport becomes pro, as it becomes on the TV, becomes everything else. I hope we hold on to our grassroots, because our grassroots are what define this as being special. We don't want to be like hockey or NBA or baseball. Yeah, we want to be on the same stage as them, but we want to be Ultimate Frisbee, because and the fans and everybody will fall in love with us because of our grassroots and what we are, and that's what makes us special. Very cool.
So you know what? I want to end on that note, because I think that was beautifully put. And thank you very much. So Lawrence McKendall, Scooberlicious Ultimate, and I'm very pleased with my guest Morgan Hibbert. They're going to be playing the Vancouver Riptide. Are going to be playing the San Francisco Flamethrowers at a to join me. Who is this dude? So I'm glad he came out here, Ubered out here, we hooked up, we're on the track doing this, and I really appreciate this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Lawrence. I really enjoyed it, and best of luck with all your endeavors.
Thank you. Likewise, very much so, and because of YouTube, we'll be watching.
See you later.
On the road. Take it easy.